Hi, this is Dr. Radha from Department of Food Service Management and Dietetics, Avanashlingam Institute for Home Science and Higher Education for Women. Welcome to the module on processing and products of wheat. Consumption of cereals has been an integral part of human civilization since time immemorial. Cereals cooked in different ways reflect the progress of mankind. Hope all of us we know so many cereal grains are available to human for consumption like rice, wheat, ragi, bajra, jowar and other types of minor millets too. But wheat has been one of the most popular grain next to rice. It is consumed in abundance by the people throughout the world. Wheat is consumed in different forms in different regions of the country. After going through this module, you will be able to know the structure and classification of wheat, the milling process of wheat and the products of wheat. Now, let us see the structure of wheat. Though wheat look like a small grain, it contains several layers of cells arranged one below the other. The structure of wheat is shown here. It is self-explanatory. Wheat is broadly classified into three types like hard wheat, durum wheat and soft wheat. Actually, hard wheat contains 10 to 12% of protein and it is used for making bread and macaroni products. Whereas durum wheat contains 13 to 15% of protein and it is used for making macaroni products. Soft wheat contains 8 to 9% and it is used for making biscuits, cakes, cookies, etc. Actually, it is used in bakery industry. Wheat is broadly classified into three types like hard wheat, durum wheat and soft wheat. Actually, hard wheat contains 10 to 12% of protein and it is used for making bread and macaroni products. Whereas durum wheat contains 13 to 15% of protein and it is used for making macaroni products. Soft wheat contains 8 to 9% and it is used for making biscuits, cakes, cookies, etc. Actually, it is used in bakery industry. There are many steps that are involved in milling. Now, let us learn the process of milling of wheat in detail. Before it goes to the mill, first it has to be cleaned. So, in milling process, the very first step involves the separation of grains from its seed and from the other grains. It removes the foreign materials that originated during harvesting such as stones, metal particles, straw and some kind of stick, etc. This process is done in 6 steps. The equipments that clean the grain are together called as cleaning unit, or it can also be called as cleaning house. The first equipment used for cleaning is magnetic separator. When the grain is passed through the magnetic separator, it removes the ferrous material particles. Then it will pass through other metal detectors which will ensure the final product does not have any metal pieces. Next is the separator. The rotating drum, or it is also called as vibrating drum, which eliminates the bits of wood, straw and almost anything is too small or too big to be desired grain. The lighter impurities and dusts are removed by air currents which acts as a vacuum. This is done by the aspirator. And the next one is the destoner. It is a machine which helps to separate the lighter one, that is the lighter form of heavy metals, and it helps to remove the stones that may be the same size as the desired grain. The next equipment used is the disc separator. The grains are sent through the disc separator and this will identify the grains even more closely. It will remove shorter, longer or round or maybe angular or in any way a different shape one. The next one is the scorer. In this process, the outermost husks are removed and it helps to remove the dirt and other impurities present. Scorer, like in this process, the outermost husks are removed and it helps to remove the dirt and other impurities present. Here, air acts as a media which will pull all the loosened materials away from the grain. Next one is the color separator. Nowadays, the modern mills are using electronic color separator which helps to simplify the process of cleaning. The next stage is tempering, that is, after this grain is ready for the condition for milling, the process done is called tempering the grain. Now, moisture is added in small amounts so that it toughens the bran and helps to mellow the inner layer called endosperm. This process helps the part of the grain to separate more easily. The time required for this process can range from 6 to 24 hours. The temperature and time needed depends on the moisture content of the wheat and its type also. Grinding wheat. Now the kernel is ready for milling process. In the milling process, the grinding and shifting is done next by next. The wheat kernels are reduced in this process. Blending, sifting and again blending should be taken care to get consistent product. The kernels are then sent to the first break roll process. Here the bran, germ and starch, that is the endosperm, are separated one by one. In the process of grinding the wheat, there are 4 or 5 roller mills which helps to separate the starch, that is the flour, from the germ and the bran. Sifters. In the process of grinding the wheat, there are 4 to 5 roller mills are available and this will help to separate the starch, that is the flour, from the germ and the bran. Sifters. The broken particles of wheat are now dropped into huge vibrating sifters which will be like box where they are shaken with the help of cloths or screens, and then this will separate the larger particles from the smaller one. The sifter consists of 27 frames and each of is covered with either a nylon or a stainless steel screen, and it has a square opening that gets smaller and smaller the farther down they go. 5 to 6 different particles may come from each sifter. Larger particles are shaken from the top so that the finer flour will settle at the bottom. The larger particles, called middlings, are sent for reduction and it is reduced to the size of the flour. Then it is sent to the purifying system. Here a controlled flow of air lifts off the bran particles. The process is done again and again to get a fine flour. Next process is called bleaching. It is the final process in the milling. Here the finished flour is subjected to measured quantity of maturing agents. This helps to whiten the flour, that improves the color of the flour and also helps for the baking characteristics. It helps to improve the baking characteristics. Even other modern bleaching processes helps to duplicate the natural oxidation process and it is done very easily and quickly. In the process of bleaching, flour is exposed to chlorine gas or benzoyl peroxide and this helps to whiten and brighten the flour and improves its color also. One should be careful, like these bleaching agents do not leave harmful residues in the flour or destroy any of the nutrients. Hope you may be knowing the milled products of wheat. They are whole wheat flour, refined wheat flour, semolina, resultant wheat flour, broken wheat, germ and bran. Whole wheat flour is obtained by milling of whole wheat and bran is not separated from endosperm. This is more important. This is also called as atta. It is usually milled in a conventional method and it is used for making chapatis. It is rich in dietary fiber. The next one is refined wheat flour. This is obtained from milling of whole wheat where bran is separated from endosperm. This is the main difference between whole wheat flour and refined wheat flour. Bran is separated in refined wheat flour. This is also called maida. It is specially used for making bakery products. It does not contain any fiber in it, whereas whole wheat flour contains high amount of fiber. The next one is semolina. Semolina is a coarsely ground endosperm and its chemical composition is similar to that of wheat flour. It is used in the preparation of a large number of savory items and for the sweet preparation also. The next one is resultant wheat flour. The yield of resultant wheat flour is obtained 10% on the basis of wheat milled. Actually, it contains moisture of fine bran. It can be used for the preparation of chapatis in the same way as whole wheat flour. Broken wheat, it is a bigger particles than semolina. It is used for the preparation of sweets. It can also be cooked and consumed as rice for diabetics, that is those who have elevated blood sugar. Germ is eliminated along with the mill feeds. It can be separated and used for the production of wheat germ oil. Wheat bran is mainly used as a poultry feed or a cattle feed. After milling, flour is then bleached and matured either chemically or naturally by storing it for 10 to 15 days. It is believed that storing improves the flavor of the flour. Color of the flour. Flour in good condition should have a creamy white color. It is more important. When observed under bright light, it will reflect light rather than have a dead appearance like chalk powder. It should have a pleasant smell and slightly sweetish taste. When squeezed firmly in hand, it should tend to cling together, yet should easily fall apart. A baker has to store flour for many reasons. When prices of flour are low, he may buy more than his normal requirement. If shortages are anticipated, he may buy flour to tide over period of shortage. Also, it is supposed that flour matures and improves in color and strong. Flour bags should be piled. The storage area should be well ventilated. The flour should be kept away from the direct sunlight. All these points are very important. One has to take care of this. And the temperature should be 65 to 75 degree or 90 to 24 degrees Celsius, and related humidity should be between 55 to 65%. Too low or too high relative humidity are both detrimental for flour quality. Flour has a tendency to pick up foreign odor and should be stored away from such ingredients which may impart odor. While storing, it must be ensured that flour is free from insect infestation. Now, let us see the composition of wheat flour. The major portion is starch, all of us we know. The starch contains of microscopic granules or cells. Although starch is not soluble in water, it absorbs moisture through its cells and hence necessary for protecting flour from too humid atmosphere. When starch is heated to about 140 degree Fahrenheit with about 6 times of its weight of water, starch cells, it will absorb lot of water and then it swells. At one point the cells will burst and then it will become like a gel. This process is called gelatinization. During the process of milling, about 6% of starch cells are crushed and damaged due to impact. During the process of milling, about 6% of starch cells are crushed and damaged due to the impact of rolls. Such starch is known as soluble starch. Let us see about moisture. The next important constituent of flour is moisture. A level of 13 to 14% of moisture content in the flour is ideal from baker's point of view. If moisture in flour is higher, the baker will be getting loss, solid material and more of water for his money. Higher moisture will warm up flour during storage and will reduce insect infestation. It reduces the storage or shelf life also. If the moisture content of the flour is high, it will reduce the water absorption and lower the flour, resulting in less yield. Protein. Refined wheat flour contains two types of protein, that is soluble and insoluble protein. Soluble proteins are used in providing nourishment to the yeast for its growth and reproduction during fermentation process. There are two insoluble proteins which are present in the wheat, that is gliadin and glutenin. Glutenin helps for the strength of the dough, whereas gliadin is responsible for the elasticity of the dough. The rubbery material is known as gluten and it is responsible for the formation of structure of baked products. High structural products like bread will require stronger quality of gluten, while lower structure products like cakes, cookies, they don't require such gluten. Ash content of flour is indicative of the degree of its purity with respect to bran fragments. Higher ash content means that the flour contains too much of bran fragments. Apart from darkening the color of the flour, the bran fragments also have cutting action on gluten fibers. Such flours will not retain gas during different stages of processing, and the product thus made will have a low volume and poor texture. The protease enzyme present in the aleurone layer, which will also weakens the flour. Small quantity of sugar which is naturally found in the flour is called sucrose or maltose. Even if sugar is not added to the bread formula, it should be possible to make bread, as the sugar naturally occurring in the flour will provide sufficient food for the yeast to produce carbon dioxide gas. However, apart from providing food for the yeast, sugar has other functions to perform, like retaining the moisture in the bread, imparting golden brown color to the crust, improving the taste and flavor of the bread, etc. These beneficial effects cannot be achieved with the limited amount of sugar which is naturally occurring in the flour. Hence, the necessary for using additional sugar in bread formula. Few standards tests are available to test the flour quality. Let us see one by one. Moisture. As I said earlier, flour should have 14% of moisture. Higher moisture content is detrimental to flour quality and a monetary loss to a baker, and has been demonstrated in previous paragraphs. Ash determines the mineral matter in flour. Minerals are concentrated in bran. Hence, by knowing the ash content, degree of bran contaminated can be determined. High bran content of the flour will not darken the flour, but bread volume will also be affected, as bran has cutting action on gluten strands. Protein. Quantity and quality of insoluble proteins can be determined in the laboratory. For bread making, both quality as well as quantity are very important. Falling number test. It indicates the amylase activity in the flour. High falling numbers indicate reduced amylase activity and vice versa. Farinograph, which measures the strength of the flour for commercial mixing. Extensograph, it indicates the loaf potentials. Michael viscometer, it indicates the amount of bleaching the flour has undergone. Actually, the bleaching of flour weakens the proteins. pH value, it indicates the acidity or alkalinity of the flour. Beaker color test, it indicates the degree of separation. One has to know these tests to judge the quality of the flour. Now, let us see the wheat products. Bread, it is the fermented product obtained by the fermentation of dough. By the action of yeast, dough is fermented and baked at high temperature. The ingredients used for bread preparation are refined wheat flour, yeast, shortening, sugar, salt, milk, and other improvers, etc. Let us see the preparation of bread. The stages involved in the preparation of bread are the preparation of dough, fermentation of dough, and finally baking. In the preparation of dough, the common steps that are used are straight dough method, sponge and dough method, and mechanical dough method. In straight and dough method, it is a single step process in which all the ingredients are mixed together in a single batch. Mixing is continued until the dough attains a desired smoothness and elasticity. The advantage of this method are minimum labor and less time taken for fermentation, and it gives a better flavor. Sponge and dough method, formation of sponge and development of dough. The sponge generally contains about 50 to 60% of total flour to be used for the dough. The flour is made into dough and then it is fermented. The fermented dough is mixed with the remaining quantity of the flour and the whole mass is to be fermented once again, so that it is called sponge and dough method. In mechanical dough method, the ingredients are mixed and the dough formation are done mechanically under controlled conditions of pressure. The next stage is the fermentation of dough. The prepared dough is allowed to ferment at 30 to 35 degrees for 1 hour. After 1 hour, it is knocked back and allowed to ferment once again. The fermentation process is called as proving. After proving is made, it is placed in bread pans and allowed for final proving. Last stage is baking, that is, after final proving, bread is proved, egg white is coated at the top of the dough, and then it is baked at 440 degrees for 30 minutes. After baking, it is cooled and packed. The shelf life of bread is just for 3 days, and if you want to increase the shelf life, calcium propionate can be added so that it will stay for a long time. The upper portion of the bread is called crust and the inner portion is called crumb. Buns, they are also like bread, but they are proved in round shape instead of placing in a bread pans. Otherwise, same steps and same dough is used for bread and bun. Cookies. Cookies are referred as small sweet cakes. In our country, it is known as biscuits. According to the recipe adopted and different mixing methods, cookies are classified into 2 types. They are batter type and foam type cookies. Batter type, it is otherwise called as drop and snapshot cookies. The recipe of batter cookies is same as that of cake, except less proportion of egg, milk and water is added. Foam type cookies, meringues and sponge cookies are example for this type. Foam type cookies are made with large percent of egg white, which provides structure and leavening action. Care must be taken while choosing the ingredients. Quality ingredients and correct method of processing should be followed to produce a high quality product. The ingredients used are wheat flour or even refined wheat flour can also be used, butter, castor sugar, egg, salt and vanilla essence. Preparation of cookies, it is prepared in different forms, but this is the simple method, that is one stage method or all in one method. In this method of making cookie dough, all the ingredients like refined wheat flour, butter, castor sugar, egg, salt, vanilla essence are scaled, that is weighed and mixed at one stretch. The order of mixing is as follows. First, dry ingredients with leavening agent, then add liquid, that is the wet ingredients. After that, add flavoring, and finally nuts and choco chips if any. Whereas for creaming method, for the preparation of cream, cream the fat with sugar. Slowly start adding eggs one by one, that is little at a time. Then mix flour with rising agents and fold into a creaming mixture. For the preparation of sponge, first place eggs and sugar in a clean bowl and start whisking it. Mix flour with rising agents and add nuts if any. Fold the flour mixture to eggs. Once it is light and foamy, then pipe the mixture to mold and bake them till it is done. This method is so simple and anyone can do it at home. Next one is pasta. Pasta is a generic term used in reference to the whole range of products commonly known as spaghetti, macaroni and noodles. Raw materials for the preparation of pasta are the pasta products are macaroni, spaghetti, vermicelli and noodles. These are manufactured primarily from semolina, durum granules and flour produced from the milling of durum wheat. These are the preferred raw ingredients or the raw materials for the production of superior quality of pasta products. To a lesser extent, farina and flour from common wheat are also used. In addition, pasta can be processed from blends of various non-durum materials with durum semolina or flour. However, blended products usually suffer a deficiency with respect to some quality attributes such as color or cooking quality. The degree to which blending is practiced is usually dependent on wheat availability and price, competitive pricing and consumer acceptance in a given market. Semolina. Actually, semolina is a word derived from Italian word called semola. Pasta products are manufactured principally from the three main milled products of durum wheat, namely semolina, durum granulus and durum flour. Farina and flour from common wheat are also used, but they are used in lesser extent. For the production of good quality pasta, the particle size of the semolina should not be too coarse or it should not be too fine. Though so many grain varieties are available and known to man, wheat remains one of the favorite and most consumed grain in the cereal family. It may be due to ease of growing, wellness, satiety value, etc. It is cooked in different forms. Also, the byproducts obtained during milling of wheat is useful in many ways. Thank you.